Hey, that military video one was nice.
I haven't watched it. I want to watch it. Do you think he should sit with me?
Yes.
Molethi?
And you should watch that
No,
episode.
he has to sit with you.
He has
Why?
to sit with you and you have to talk to him about why his brother hates Zuma so much, number one. Number two is that why did his brother sabotage the South African economy after he was left out? Because all the deals that were done under the Mbeki administration, Transnet deals with South Korea, Skaufeld, he
What does
set
that
off
mean?
an
He
investor
cancelled?
strike. Yeah, he
I
cancelled
don't
it.
speak these minority languages, so you guys must remember. Zulu la. Sikhuluma isiZulu, and then
We
maybe a
go
bit
to
of
challenge him
English.
because some of the things, man, he's good, but some of the things I think it was.
Okay,
fucking
I'm ready to hit. We don't have time.
Duma, you're rolling on everything?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Where?
Oh, yeah, they.
Yes.
I'm rolling sound.
Yeah, we're good.
Good to go. Thank you. Nota, this is round 2. We're recording this on the same day, the 24th of March. We had another episode earlier, which people will probably see first before this one. And now we need to follow up and try and fucking concatenate and
We can't join them.
consolidate all the... No, it's not going to work. Quick updates on the 2 cases.
Oh, you don't want to put a poll up on the channel? Say, yo, do you guys want 2 parts or do you want one long episode and then see?
There was a lady, Tumeleng, who accused you of violating her. Just a quick summary on what's happened to that case. And then you were arrested because KO also had a case with you. And there was a contempt of court. You can just do them in summary. I know some people already know, but just for archiving purposes.
With regards to the rape case, it's been dismissed, right? And yeah, so I denied it, the allegation, as it was put with contempt. And also, I was pretty shocked at the violation of the protection order that I was granted. When the complainant not only made a video basically talking about her opening the case and having the case opened. And this is at the point where, I've been formally charged, or at least I've given a statement to the police. And then after the charges were dropped, firstly, she didn't even appear in court on that day, knowing what the outcome was going to be. And then number 2, putting a ridiculous statement out there that she withdrew, knowing that it is against the law to withdraw a gender-based violence-related case in South Africa.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, since I think
against the law.
2003. Yeah, you can't withdraw it yourself. If you open the case, the prosecutor is the only person that can withdraw the case. It was a very serious thing. You know what I mean? It's a Schedule 5 or 6 offense, which means it's not automatic bail. So I had to plead with the court to grant me bail, and they granted me bail of 5,000 rand. And I'm not too sure whether my sister's going to collect it yet or not.
To get a refund?
Well, yeah, you get it back after the case is being concluded.
The lady said that she's got some work. I wanted to ask just quickly how that made you feel. And many of the people who were supporting you were like, no, but you should sue this lady, because it's becoming all too frequent that people are opening cases, dropping them at will, but they tarnish people's reputations.
Look, as for whatever work opportunities she cited as the reasons for her withdrawal of the charges, I doubt that there's any such thing, because she did not withdraw the charges. So I don't think she'd be lying on one end, but partly telling the truth on the other end. But we'll see whether that materializes. And then, as for how I felt about it, I just wanted it to be over as quickly as possible. And I'm also glad that, this whole entire Neanderthal thing blew up, because that dominated the media, and also my search results are going to be more dominated by racist rather than alleged rapist,
It's one letter difference.
Big
C and a
difference,
P.
but
Huge
big
difference, yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah.
You understand? So you can also understand that me being someone who filters himself.
Yeah. I was nervous with you doing a podcast drive telling your story. But I am one of the people who's a huge fan of saying, listen, tell your story. Tell your story, because the way the world is set up, sometimes even when you have the facts and the what, we've seen it with politicians, business people, celebrities. Sometimes we all know the facts, and the way the system is designed can still crush you. But for the fact that you are like, everyone knows my story, I didn't hide anything. So yes, there's a court of public opinion, which is neither here nor there. But if
everything.
Sure. But if ever anything happens in the real courts, people know my story, and it's not just a matter of I lost in court without people knowing my story.
Now, the court of public opinion is everything. Let me put it to you like this. We're going to go into the second thing that we're talking about, right? But also, before I get into that, I'll get into it like this. Someone called me, Sfiso, from Piano Pulse. He called me, he's like, yo, bro, I nearly made a big blunder. It's like, yo, someone is telling me, yo, there's this other artist that wants to work, and they send me some songs, you know what I mean? So let's get into studio. Cool. So they send me the songs, but she was using a different name, right? But then when the person called me again, he mentioned her name. And I was like, hold on, that name is that not the person that accused Nota of A, B, C, and D? And the guy said, yeah, no. So he's like, bro, yo, never, ever call me about anything that girl wants to do. I'd rather keep my relationship with Nota than do anything with her. And for me, it's not like, if he did something with her, I was going to be mad at him or anything of the sort. Yeah. But just in the court of public opinion, there's a lot of men in the industry, and you've triggered something in men that is very, very, very sensitive. Every man knows, especially black men. You know what I mean? Especially if you're a black man that's ever dated white girls, it's ever present in your head. You know what I mean? You don't want to become the next Makai and Tini. A white girl's tears make you guilty of sexual assault. You know what I mean? With black relationships, the risk is not that high. But with this new Mavuso culture, where you wake up in the morning, someone is asking you for money and all sorts of things, it's become very prevalent, And right now, the way I see it, I think that there are more false rape cases being opened than genuine ones, the way I see it.
Thank you, Nota. The KO case and you being arrested and contempt of court, is that case still ongoing, or is that completely done as well?
I was sentenced. So that was my sentence. The thing came out, it happened before I went to the States.
Because this had to do with utterings you had about the passing of Kenan Forbes, AKA. So I'm just asking, all of that is done. This wasn't just an isolated, but then there's a separate case.
The sentencing was the end of it.
Okay.
So, we spoke about this the last time I spoke to you. But again, court of public opinion. I came out after however many days I spent in prison, whatever, it'd be 18 days that I spent inside there. And when I came out, I didn't come out as someone who's a bandit or a criminal. The court of public opinion said, hey, listen, yes, they arrested him, but he's got a righteous cause and he's explained it to us and we understand that. And therefore, we're not going to see him as some sort of common criminal. In fact, it martyred me to an extent. I spoke about it. I spoke about the possibility of me spending 60 to 90 days behind bars. You know what I mean? I ended up serving my 60-day sentence and I came out having not folded. You know what I mean? And a lot of people get put under pressure to fold. I mean, I was put under pressure to fold by Shimza. You know what I mean?
You've been sued a couple of times.
That's result, dude. That's why I said, I've faced millions in losses to lawsuits.
You've paid?
Well, I've paid partly. I've paid a couple 100,000 rands. I've got like hundreds of thousands of rands in my bank accounts that are frozen that I can't access right now, which is a bit frustrating. But it's nice to be broke knowing you've got money somewhere than to be broke with no hope of ever getting any money anyway. So I guess that's the one part. But I mean, it just shows how two-tiered our justice system is. If you're sued by someone whose girlfriend works for the president, the case gets sent straight to court. Anybody else who wants to send a civil matter to court now needs to wait until 2027 unless they agree to mediation instead.
Animal Farm.
You understand what I'm saying? My case was in the courts within 2 months. was wrapped up within 1 week. Judgment, everything, having the sheriff freeze my accounts and everything. And you just imagine, like, it happened to me while I was in the States. So where I stay, in Harlem, around the corner, there's like a market. Come into the market, and because I use my South African bank account, so sometimes they block my account. I need to call the bank. You know what I mean?
Sure, to let them know that you're traveling.
Yeah, I
and those
go
things.
in for my coffee. Oh, my card's not working. My coffee and my bagel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My bacon, egg, and cheese bagel. So
Dunkin' New York.
yeah, it's a $7.
Hey,
thing
wait,
with
let them know.
with a $2 double espresso.
What?
So tap my card, clean. It's not working. I'm thinking it's the same thing.
At the bank.
Try call the bank. Time zone difference. I forget. Next day, I figure 40. Third day, damn it. I mean, second day, it's not working. Third day, it's not working. Now I owe this guy $21. So obviously,
He was letting you chow for free.
nah, he knows I live right around the corner.
Oh,
you know what I
okay,
mean?
okay.
And I'm there all the time. So
Okay.
either way, I owe him $21. So I'm like, let me go to the ATM inside your thing. Let me try and withdraw, because sometimes the withdrawing with the card works better. I phone withdraw. So now I needed to go into my business accounts. And then those were available. I withdrew whatever cash I needed to withdraw. I think I withdrew $60. He gave him his $21, moved on. Then I get sent an email from my bank manager. He tells me, yeah, listen, we've been sent this by the court or by the sheriff. You know what I mean? You can't access the monies in your account. So that is like a big fold. And even now I'm trying to fight my way out of that, you know. But it stems from the cookout with Somizi at Hangout. The current Minister of Justice, Mamuluko Kubai, you know, she's now the Minister of Justice. She was the tourism minister at that point in time, did a tourism thing in the middle of COVID, which no one in the world is going to watch. South Africa's on the red list, you know what I mean? They didn't follow the PFMA, the Public Finance Management Act. Apparently Shimza got the tender because his manager got a call from the government, and none of the due processes were followed. But because his girlfriend works for the president and certain judges are partial to people who they feel are close to the president, he then decided that me tweeting about what I'd seen on Checkpoint on E! News or whatever the channel is, meant that I was defaming. I was taking Shimza's dignity.
That's really swag.
Intentionally.
That's really swag.
And then also, he didn't think to say, okay, but why isn't Shimza suing Checkpoint? You know what I mean? Because they're the ones that brought this up. And why isn't Shimza suing any of the other people that tweeted about this? Because as soon as Ati, Shimza's girlfriend, posted the picture, Shimza's girlfriend of 11 years,
Yeah.
I have to say that in your defense, but now you 20 years and now
Oh, this guy.
you're anti-marriage, you know what I mean? You're anti-marriage, you know
I
what
am
I mean?
anti-marriage, sorry.
Yeah, anti-marriage. So
You're right, I'm anti-marriage.
you weren't happy when Miss Universe got married to a Chiskop nigga. With a
No, I haven't commented on that. I'm actually very happy for Uzosbini.
Are you happy for him? Forget that. Are you happy for the Chiskop nigga?
Congrats to Zozibini Tunzi, ex-Miss South Africa and Miss Universe,
secured the
on
bag.
getting married.
She secured the bag.
And doing so privately, which is so really dope. And I wish her and her new husband the best of luck.
That's the only time people should see your woman is on your wedding day. Other than that, Mansa Chola, no one should see who you're
I want to say this quickly because I'm kind of wary. I don't want you to keep talking in case you also touch on certain things that might affect you. I was included in Umama, who I respect very much, by the way. Umama Basetsana Khumalo, who's married to Ubabu Romeo Khumalo, who's a legend.
Who's on the board of
business.
Publicist Group, who owns Connect TV. So Publicist Group is one of the verticals. It's the advertising agency, media buying agency that buys all the advertising slots on SABC for Tswelopele Productions and
which is
for Connect
Basetsana's
TV.
production company.
Yes.
Okay.
So Publicist Group is
So
and Romeo Khumalo and Basetsana Khumalo are both on the Publicist Group board. So they're on the group of the advertising agency they own the content production
Okay.
company, and then they produce shows that sell products.
We must learn these things. So
Yeah.
I was included in her, I don't know if it's an autobiography, but in her book,
Oh.
which was really sad for me. Relax. Please calm down. Puzi koflako. I think Jackie Pamote ended up losing her case. I don't know if she's still under house arrest. She was sued by the couple for a book she wrote, and
Yeah, she's under correctional supervision.
defamatory things that she'd said about them, or specifically the husband.
Alluding to them being involved in the
certain
so-called
things.
hockey club, yes.
Yeah. So the story broke, and I happened to be in a WhatsApp group with the couple at the time. And I shared this, right, on the group. Because I mean, I'm in a group with you. Someone says Nota did something.
Yeah.
I post there, and when the court papers come out, my name ends up being added there. And it becomes the story of, but I was just referring a story that was written by someone else.
Yeah.
It wasn't me, and that made me sad. And I think it's a conversation at some point that needs to be had about how the legal system works and
you
stuff.
You can be sued for things you say in a WhatsApp group. You can be sued.
Which is okay, but you're not the one originating the story.
I understand. Like Mike Teke was sued as well for sending an SMS to another person.
Sure.
You understand? So
I've got no issue with the WhatsApp group, but like there was no foul play on my side. It was me sharing a story that was on a public platform. And then I ended up being included. Luckily at the time I was a nobody. And the problem becomes when you become a somebody, a MacG, a Nota,
when you become important,
someone people think might have money or whatever.
When you matter,
then you get sued, and everyone else who's sharing the thing or originated the story, nothing happens to them.
Nothing happened to them,
and that kind of gets sad. Okay, let's keep it moving.
Well, I mean, it's sad for one thing, but at least you know you matter more than any of those other people.
For me, that's not a win. That I don't want to matter like that. I'd rather not matter.
I mean, do you think there's a finite limit to the amount of money you can make?
No.
So even if you go 100M down, you can get 2 billion up.
Anyways, so we've gone through 2 cases. I don't know if this is a case. The Human Rights Commission, which deals with things like hate speech and the like. You went on the Hustlers Corner with DJ Sbu.
I am on the Hustlers Corner with DJ Sbu every Monday.
Hey, Nota Mondays is okay.
It's actually a Monday, but it's Nota Monday.
It's not a Monday without Nota Mondays.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Hey.
Actually, much better than me.
Actually.
Hey. Okay. Hey there.
Hey.
Hey. Ogilvy.
You want to fight that?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying Ogilvy need a copywriter.
I watched
a publicist group.
I watched the interview. I was upset with the clip.
Oh, yes.
And I'd say something about it afterwards.
You reacted, yes.
Which is okay. If you want to engage, we can engage, but it's not important now. I just wanted to ask what's going on with the Human Rights Commission, because there were people that opened cases against you for, I'm guessing it was hate speech and the
Neil
like.
de Beer of the United Independent Movement.
Yeah.
Opened the case.
There were many others apparently.
And all the best to him with his current ongoing cancer treatment.
Yes.
You know, my father just recovered from cancer. And
we spoke about this when we were last together.
He took precautionary chemo. So he didn't need chemo because he already had some nano operation where they cut out whatever lumps were in his colon. But he's fully recovered from colon cancer. He took a precautionary 6-month course of chemotherapy, and that was also really hard on him. So I empathize with what Mr. Neil de Beer
is
going through. And I also commend him for still showing up, even though, you know, right now his health is not 100%.
Yeah.
And knowing his history, having met him and spoken to him within the struggle and even in the democratic dispensation, you know, I've got lots of respect and admiration for him.
Yeah.
I was also very disappointed that he's the one that actually sent through that complaint, you know, and rallied up other people to send through that complaint. He says a lot of things, you know, he uses a lot of words that some might call unsavory. The word Neanderthal is not a swear word. It's not an unsavory word, you know what I mean? Neither is Homo sapien. When he does his Sunday show with Chris Stein on Biz News TV every Sunday, you know. He says a lot of things, calls people mambaras, what, you know what I mean? He's got very colorful language. He doesn't use swear words, but, you know, he says al-mur,
Yes.
you know, mursetlapo, all these things, you know what I mean? Which are, you know...
It's a very crass way of speaking.
Yeah, but it's also, it's like, it's rude words in Afrikaans.
Yeah.
They might not be swear words, but they're rude words.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he's the type of person that does that. He's watching me do the same thing he does, except it's on a Monday, not on a Sunday. And instead of listening to the content of the conversation and taking it in context, he basically took that small part. And to those people that felt like what I was doing was saying that white people are less than human, I feel that you're being unfair to me because there's the full context of the episode in which I gave that in. And the full context of that episode is to say we are having racial divisions exacerbated by external forces now. So the divisions that we already had amongst us, you know what I mean, where we feel some way about white people feel some way about us, Indian people feel some way about, you know, everybody feels some way, and we're able to express it, but we know where to draw the line. You know what I mean? Now it's coming out and no lines are being drawn. We're not seeing what is okay, what is not okay. My call, especially to the core audience of the Hustlers Corner, which is in the main Africans, right? My call was for us not to seek vengeance from the provocations we are seeing from white South Africans, because their dismissal of our suffering during apartheid is a provocation. You know, they're telling us to just move on, get on with it, is a provocation. Them telling us to pull ourselves up by our bootstrings is a provocation. You know, we discussed all of that. We discussed the fact that, you know, the National Party government had a bioweapons program where they infected people with HIV.
Is that Voter Passon? No, that's someone else.
But
Those
either
are
way,
other guys.
yeah, but
Sure.
they were all part of that weapons program. Voter Passon was at the head of that program. And at the same time, people were celebrating the cutting of PEPFAR aid. So the same people who benefited from apartheid, the apartheid government, that infected people with HIV, making us have the highest or second highest infection rate in the world. It's between us and Swaziland, you know. Who takes the number one spot, you know, in terms of most infected people as a proportion of their population. They're celebrating that. Now, let's just say we're in Israel and someone decides the Holocaust was a hoax, and then there's a celebration of that by a certain sector of the population that are in the minority. The majority of the population would be looking at them and be like, hey, that's a provocation. So there are all these provocations that I'm speaking about that are happening to black people. And no one is saying anything about it. I even mentioned the fact that Mike Teke, Siriti, billions, moving coal out the country, trading with the rest of the world, whatever the case may be, can't put down R1 million in a media budget. Penuel, counter this narrative. MacG, counter this narrative. Lasizwe, counter this narrative.
You believe in that stuff, paying people to push agendas?
The provocation is being done by people who are paid to push the agenda.
So you reckon there should be a counter to that?
It should never go unanswered.
Okay.
So I was doing the counter to that using my lack of money, but my, abundance and influence to now say, here's the counter to that. Same time, knowing that I've got limited resources, I've only got my own voice, my own personal voice. I needed to be strategic in how I spell that out. And my intent with that was to say, there is no reason for black people to feel inferior to whites whatsoever. Genetically, culturally, socially, economically, in any way, shape, or form. You understand? There's no reason to feel inferior to whites.
Yeah.
Why did I do that? Because as soon as we take away the possibility of inferiority complex triggering emotional reactions that might lead to violence, first, let's quell that. let's make sure that all those that feel inferior have a reason to doubt that, if that's what they truly believe. And those that feel that they're superior also doubt that, if that's what they tend to believe.
Yeah.
And I feel that was successfully done. If you look at the results of the impact of that episode, I mean, it's global. The clips have hundreds of millions of views everywhere around the world.
The number of people that are calling themselves Neanderthal on Twitter is scary around the world.
I don't think it's scary. I think it should
that
be.
actually speaks to your influence. It's hectic.
Yeah, but it's endearing. It also speaks to the strategy that I used, that I deployed. I used the reverse Uno card. You know what I mean? I used the mirror. And basically, I mirrored the white superiority complex as a black person. And they found that offensive.
Okay. Just be careful of what you say, because I think you've got a case.
No, I don't. I've got a mediation now.
Okay.
So yes, they sent a letter of demand with their demands and saying, please meet these demands, apologize, go for racial sensitivity training, give us 150,000 rands to donate to some anti-racist charity, whatever, and also do another episode withdrawing the statements that you made. I said, no. I explained why. I explained the fact that I need my chance to express myself. They can't just make a judgment without getting any representation from me. And I would like that we first go to a mediation. And they agreed to that. So they've set the date for the 2nd of April, which is
You're not planning to meet the demands?
I'm planning to meet case. Whatever the settlement that is agreed to through the mediation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to... I don't want us... No, what am I doing? I want us to move on. But before we do, I just want to say a few things about that without going into the episode. There were reasons I didn't agree with what you said, and I've publicized those. I don't want to repeat them here. And I just wanted to go on record that there are certain things you said that I don't agree with. I don't want to explain what they are. What I do want to say while you're here. So on the record, there are things you said that I don't agree with personally as a black O, regardless. And whoever opened cases, there's a part of what they said I agree with. I want to say while you're here, everything that you've said now and explaining is 100% correct. And there are many people in this country, because I've been venting in the last couple of weeks myself.
Yes, you've just found out.
No, I haven't found out. So I haven't found out.
Oh, you've realized.
No, I haven't realized. That's finding out.
They said you fucked around with white people and now you found out.
Hey.
That's what I saw on YouTube this morning.
Fafo. Fuck around and find out.
Yeah, they said Penuel fucks around with white people and finds out.
We've got a
I think that's Sihle. Sihle put that on his channel. Sihle and Spe and Sihle, the couple, they're married.
Oh no, I don't know them.
Not that other Sihle that you interviewed. The one that I was speaking about on the Hustlers Corner.
No, I don't know.
The 24th.
We've got a serious psychological issue in the world for various reasons. And yes, they've used various tools, whether it's money, religion, race, to control and subdue and psychologically dominates other people. And you're very right in trying to counter that, very importantly, to a point where you shake people with the superiority complex to make them not understand. How dare you, boy, come and speak to me the way I speak to you? Like, well, number one, I don't need you and I don't fear you and I don't whatever.
Yeah.
It's part of... I used to be very angry, by the way, when I went through my black consciousness phase. And the studying of your Tupacs and your Marcus Garveys and your Malcolm X's and your Louis Farrakhan.
You never knew you were poor until you went to Rhodes.
Me? I never knew I was poor.
Until you went to Rhodes. Like you thought, okay, we might be middle class. No,
what would make you say that?
And then you went to Rhodes and you're like, yo, Zama. And the gap.
No, it had nothing to do with that.
Okay.
At all.
My experience was the university experience that really showed me the disparity.
I was just exposed to conscious black kids, which I'd never been before.
Where? Rhodes.
Rhodes.
So it wasn't that the white kids sit on one lawn and the black kids sit on another lawn.
Never that.
It was
Rhodes is actually quite a dynamic space.
So you were radicalized.
No, not even intentionally. So
I'm glad you weren't fully done with the Rhodes process. They only halfway did you. They radicalized you, but they didn't.
No, this wasn't Rhodes, and I don't want to give Rhodes kudos.
They didn't give you rainbow colors. So, they didn't give you a rainbow flag.
I befriended a few kids, let's say like a note at Rhodes, who was like, hey, do you know my dad fought in the... Oh, okay, cool. Hey, have you ever read this book? Oh, no. And look, mind you, I think my consciousness started from high school, because that's when I started with Abo Busta Rhymes, Nabo Luda. And then I got into Black Star, Talib Kweli, Most Def. What's that?
Dreadlocks?
No, again, this is a misunderstanding. So when you try and read my life, none of that had anything to do with consciousness.
So
at all.
So when didn't you have
This is what I'm
dreadlocks in
trying
high
to
school?
explain.
You didn't have dreadlocks in high school?
Zero.
When did you get the dreadlocks?
So I'm listening to Talib, Most Def.
I hate Talib
Common.
Kweli.
It's okay.
No. Seriously, like right now.
Now I can't finish.
No. I'm still angry.
Go.
I'm still angry at the late Keenan, aka Forbes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was about to fuck Talib Kweli up. I was about to punch him in the face, and then Keenan pulled me off him. So I never got to punch him in the face, and he disrespected us after flying 25 hours to the United States of America so that he could shit on us and make us uncomfortable. It's just so
Was this after collaborating with Casper?
What do you mean?
He's got a track with Casper.
Who?
Talib.
I don't know whether this was in 2018.
Okay. Anyways.
2018 South by Southwest in Texas, in Austin.
You want to explain why you wanted to punch him?
Yes.
Quickly.
We booked Talib Kweli.
Okay.
So we were doing a show with Keenan. So it was Kid X Questa, a.k.a. A show in Texas for South by Southwest. So it's basically South African hip-hop showcase. That's what we put together. We spent money. We did that ourselves. We flew our bands across the whole entire 9 yards. And then they stopped selling liquor at 2 a.m. at the clubs in Texas because that's the law. And that's it. And we've been to Texas before, so we know at 2 a.m. they start selling they start selling alcohol. Our plan was to start the performances at 30 minutes after midnight so that everyone could get their 30 minutes on stage before 2 a.m. and then Talib Kweli comes on at 2 a.m. Because it's in his home country, we felt that maybe a lot of the crowd will be there to see him. We booked him because we wanted a crowd that's familiar with at least one act on the lineup. So we booked him and we felt like, we've paid you. You're supposed to perform at 2. Now you're telling us you want to perform at 11 just so that you can go take your daughter to her show. So he was bringing his daughter along to South by Southwest and his daughter had a show. So he forgot his clients, which are us, these South Africans that he didn't care about because we're South Africans, and decided to go do his daughter's thing. I was like, no, you're not getting on that stage. I'm blocking him. You know what I mean? Now he's trying to push it through. And while I'm holding him, I just feel like big hands grabbing me from behind and picking me up and lifting me off of Talib. And yeah, that was Keenan. And he said, boy, we are so far from home, my boy. We are so far from home. Anything happens here, my boy, it's tickets.
Sober thoughts. Shout out to Keenan for that.
Yeah.
I get to Rhodes quickly. I meet these kids. It had nothing to do with Rhodes. I wasn't part of any student politics. I didn't join a SASCO or whatever was there. I just happened to meet a few people. At the same time,
DASO?
At the same time, that's why I don't even think they existed at that time.
Okay.
At the same time, that's
why it was just ISO.
At the same time, that's where I interrogated my Christianity and ended up leaving. It had nothing to do with Rhodes. I just happened to be at a place where I met a few people that influenced me. The reason I ended up with dreadlocks is because I stopped cutting my hair. Not because I was growing dreads. I wasn't a Rasta. I wasn't black conscious. I was just reading stuff. And in that whole period leading up to what I'm saying, I ended up getting very angry. Number one, at the white supremacist regime, historically. Secondly, at what Christianity had done to African people in particular in subduing them to this day and pacifying them. I'd go through this period where I'd be very angry. I used to be, people call me controversial today. I'm like, even my brother tries to tell people, if you knew my brother 10 years ago, what you've got now is like woolies. This guy is so nice. I used to be very angry. I used to swear to everyone. This was before Mark Zuckerberg would actually flag and censor our posts. So I understand the anger and the wanting to spit venom so much. And it's very important because I'm upset in the last few weeks. And it's not because I'm realizing or I figured out. I was trying to have a Codesa 2.0. There was a Codesa 1. Certain conversations were held. Certain compromises were made. I was like, we're dealing with legacy children now. Let's have a new conversation. And you think that when you're talking, you're like, look, for us to have a conversation, I'm going to start off by listening to you. So that when you're like, we struggled through the Voortrekker monument and, my parents were immigrants and they lifted themselves up. Hey, that's very noble. Shout out to you and your family. And I'm like, let's talk. This is where I'm at. I wasn't in exile. I wasn't in Robben Island. I'm a kid. And I'm not even a kid of one of those people. But let's have a conversation about how to take this country forward. And it gets to a point where Elon Musk and Donald Trump start provoking us on social media with bullshit and lies and misinformation. And these people that you've been trying to speak to, converse with, confirm that we haven't heard a word you said and we don't actually give a flying fuck.
We've been pretending
about anything you've said. And that upset me. Because I was like, but this is how you guys create monsters. And then, of course, when you say these things, there's the nice white liberals who are like, Pen, I was listening to you. I understand. I'm like, thank you so much. Because I'm not naive. That's the one thing people don't understand. You call me names, what, and I sit and, people assume that, when you are whatever. And it's like, this is the reason why you don't get into certain spaces, because you act with emotion. I don't. I've got an ability to move in another way, which is why I can get into...
You know how to move in a room full of roaches. The industry is shady. It needs to be taken over. That's Jay-Z.
That's Jay-Z.
H to the user. Yeah.
And I was like, we're trying something different. Because the things that your people have done in the past, our biggest heroes, they were assassinated. The real black leaders were killed.
Oh, by the way, I made it to 35, bro. Give me 5. Because remember, I told you, I was like, yo, I'm trying to... No, because I came here and I said, yo, I made it past 31. So I outlived Biko. I'm now 33. So I'm trying to outlive Jesus.
Hey!
Now I've done it.
It means somehow you're a sellout, by the way. But it's okay.
Yeah.
That's what it means.
Yeah, I compromised.
Somehow.
I compromised.
Somewhere.
Oh, I haven't reached, I've already been cancelled.
That's probably why Kanye is angry.
I've already done prison time. You know what I mean? I'm left with one stage.
Convict.
You understand? So
credentials.
I've done my 2 strikes, So it's either Mandela or Sobukwe.
All I want to say is, outside of the things I disagree with you on, which I'm not going to discuss here, and I don't care if people want us to discuss it, I won't here. I want to say I agree with everything that you've said to me now. And I want to say thank you for being our voice. Because at a time, and for a long time, one of the things I really loved about Julius, and the same white people that I was conversing with, when I'd speak about Julius, they'd get angry. And I tried to explain, and I thought they were listening. And I realized they weren't, because Julius gave the black child confidence when they didn't have. Because at the time, black kids were so scared. And here's this young black guy who's like, I don't care if it's an old black person who's a billionaire or who's struggle credentials, or it's a rich white person, or it's an alien Musk. The guy speaks. And that allows the next black kid to be like, oh shit, I'm represented. I can now also speak and share my thoughts, because every other so-called black leader, when I speak, they're very quick to be like, shh, don't say that. And you're like, this guy's like, hey, fuck indaba belungu la. Ngizokhuluma ke mina. And you're like, thank you, bro. We appreciate it. So on behalf of all of those people, thank you.
No, I'd like to thank you, actually. You know what I mean?
But I still disagree with some of those things so that I don't lose my white mates.
Yeah.
Notes is wrong. The Human Rights Commission must punish him.
Yeah. Let's check the time, Nota, before you go in there. It's 2:15.
Okay.
I was just saying, you said you got a guest at 3:30.
No, at 3.
Oh, at 3?
Yeah,
Apologies, sir.
No problem.
So,
Thank you, Tebza.
So, I'd like to thank you, because we need more soldiers behind enemy lines. And I see you as one of those.
I'm not a soldier behind no enemy lines.
Unfortunately, you went to Rhodes and they radicalized you.
I'm a non-racialist. I love all good South Africans.
And those are the ones we need. We need the Mandelas. We need the Penuels, the non-racialists, to go on the other side, because they expose the hypocrisy of whiteness and white supremacy. It's like, if Penuel...
If Musi Maimane...
If all of these people that have tried everything, that
come on, man,
that sacrificed their relationships with black people. Many black people have dismissed you, said, you're a sellout, whatever. You know what I mean? I had to come hard to defend you. You know what I mean? Even my defense of you couldn't be like, I'm defending him. I needed to defend you. I needed to defend you in another way to be like, yeah, no, mara, I'm feel Penuel, mara, no, I actually sell out, mara, yes, I'm feel. So that they wouldn't say, no, you're defending him, ngoba impincha. You understand what I'm saying? So that's how dangerous you were, even radioactive to me, as in you were a danger to me. To the point where even when I came onto your show, I said many times, hey, you joined AfriForum. What, how's that going?
Sure.
You know, you defended that. And then even when we had discussions about that, I said, Mina, I would never do that. I would never take that risk.
Sure.
The risk that I said I didn't want to take is exactly what happened to you.
Yeah.
With the black community. We are oranya. All those things that you've done for these ungrateful dolls.
Shout out to everyone that we met, man. They were brilliant hosts.
You meandered through the Neanderthal forest.
Meandered through the Neander.
You understand?
Meanders.
And they gave you meanders. You understand? So you've done it. And then you also overcame the Zuma derangement syndrome.
Derangement?
Yeah, the same thing. The Trump derangement syndrome, the Zuma derangement syndrome. You know what I mean? It's the same thing.
I overcame it.
You overcame it because you were able to speak about Jacob Zuma and all the good things that he did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And get through all the criticisms that you'd get from white people. And you opened up the space, and then more people started speaking, more articulate people who speak with this trustworthy accent. You need to understand that this is the most trustworthy accent.
Hey.
Musi Maimane puts on an untrustworthy accent, and he wants to be trusted. Do you understand what I'm saying? He puts on, and you know, the particularity of this discourse is that we are
when politicians speak like that,
incising the disparity between those that have and those that have not. You understand?
Isn't that like a Leon Schuster move?
I guess it's similar to that.
It must be. A lot of these politicians do that.
You know, so he puts on that, and that's the most untrustworthy accent.
You're right.
You know what I mean? I was watching Sydney Baloyi speaking at the Biz News conference, and I was thinking to myself, damn, he's got a Limpopo accent. I can hear the Tsonga in him, right? But because it's not a Zulu accent, it's also not a threatening black accent. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's not a threatening black accent. So I looked at what he was speaking about, you know, and I thought to myself, hey, here's a big CEO of a big South African multinational, you know, who's a competent black guy. Also another one that's behind enemy lines. Your guys' position is very important. Why? Because they always try to bastardize us. White people claim that they gave us civilization. What they gave us was industrialization, not civilization. So the development that we're seeing is the result of the industrialization.
That's
correct. It's got
correct.
nothing to do with civilization. Civilization is how we are in social settings as human. You understand?
That's correct.
As human beings.
Different from savagery.
Yeah, different from savagery.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing is that the level of savagery that is, you know, endemic in white culture is something that is foreign to us.
Are you going to rehash what you were saying there?
No. I'm just saying.
But please tiptoe.
Yeah, it is foreign to us. So I feel like it's unfair to blame Christianity for it. Because if we take Christianity out of the equation, were we making guns and cannons and all these very destructive weapons? No, we weren't. So that wasn't part of our culture. So that's why it was easy to assimilate us to this Christian culture. Also, the way in which the Christian culture came is sold to us as if it came on the steed, like white horses with missionaries. You know what I mean? Saying, hey, here's the word. We're saving you from your paganism. It did not come like that. First came the bullets. First came the wars before the missionaries came. And the missionaries only came once there was a ceasefire, once there was a sort of peace. So it's like...
And while you're bleeding and wounded, the nice Christian missionary comes and says, oh, here's some food, little Ntamulo boy. Here, eat this, and I'll give you a nice name.
I don't like using rape as what you call...
An analogy.
As an analogy, but for this one, it's adequate. So what happens is that, let's say you live on a farm. You're an Afrikaner. You live on a farm.
Are you tiptoeing?
No.
You're not tiptoeing.
I'm saying it straight. You live on a farm.
You don't want to tiptoe.
No, I'm just saying you're a white Afrikaner. You live on a farm.
I'm just saying, count your words.
No, I'm not going to say anything.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, I wouldn't need another strike.
Yeah.
Order.
No. So someone comes in to your home, your farmhouse.
You're a white Afrikaner on a farm.
With your wife.
Yeah.
And your daughter and your son, right? And then they force your daughter and your son to sleep with one another, perform incest, right? They force at gunpoint, right? You refuse. No. You're not gonna make my children be destroyed forever and perform incest or whatever. Then they say, okay, fine. If you don't want to watch your children perform incest, then allow us to gang rape your wife. Right? So to save the children and the future generations, the Afrikaner man in this farm, or a smallhold farm, then obliges under duress to the assailants gang raping his wife. Right? Completely destroys the family, the results of what happened. The children get to watch their father giving their mother to assailants, not defending her, not laying down his life for her, not protecting her, right? And it's so traumatic, that experience, that they forget that their father only did that to save them. So his wife doesn't respect him. He's dead to her. His children don't respect him. He's dead to them. It's very easy for now the wife and the children to be indoctrinated and then allow themselves to be poisoned by other ideologies, other belief systems. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you look at that example as an example that is analogous to what happened with colonialism and apartheid. I mean, if you don't think that colonialism and apartheid was a lot to do with rape, right? Then you'd need to explain why there's so many mixed race or colored people, right? Apart from that. Now that you understand that it's almost a similar thing, you then become more empathetic to the people that after watching 100 years for, let's say, the Xhosa people, because we always diss them about being the most colonial and the first to be colonialized, they resisted for 100 years. After that 100 years of resistance, losing people, losing your kings, having their heads chopped off, being shipped
the frontier wars.
All of those things. After all those things, if now the Eastern Cape becomes the most religious, and there's no such thing as Judeo-Christian, you understand? You can't be Jewish and believe that
Christ is a savior.
Burning in hell in feces, and also believe that Christ is your savior. You understand? Because that's the different belief systems of the Jews and the Christians. And also, if you're a Christian, you can't support a religious belief that is premised on the fact that it denied the existence of your spiritual leader in your church, which is the Son, and that it actually had him tried and killed. You know what I mean? When you read the Bible, you read Jesus's trial. You read what he said on the stand. You read the whole entire thing to his execution. So there's no such thing as Judeo-Christian. The only religions that are actually similar, you can say, is the Catholic Church, which uses the same symbols as the Church of Islam, which is the gibbous moon and the star. If you don't know what those look like, look at the Turkish flag and the Pakistani flag. You'll find all of those. People accepting the Bible over the bullet can't be seen as a compromise. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because of those examples that I've given you. You can't see it as a compromise. So I think it's really unfair on a lot of the people that are of whatever faith, North Africa to, the top of, or to the bottom of the Sahara Desert is almost all Islamic or Muslim. And then from southern Nigeria all the way down is almost all Christian, right? You can't blame either of those two groups of Africans for adopting these faiths because they were brought by the bullet. You had two choices. So that for me, I felt was a little bit unfair from a faith side, from a lot of Black South Africans, radicalized similar in the manner in which you were radicalized as well, that say all Black people need to dismiss all religions that are either, Islam or whatever, right? We need to dismiss all
By the
of
way,
them.
I've changed. But yes, at a time, I was definitely that.
Yeah, and I said to you that you are proposing your own belief system. The reason why those other belief systems exist and are so big is because those people spilled blood for that belief system. And I said that
both of them, by the way,
if you want to compete against them, you'd have to spill as much or more blood.
That's a fact.
Are you willing to do that? You know what I mean? You weren't willing to do that. And then I said, well, then your religion has got a big problem, because you don't want to be a mass murderer. So again, now we're coming down to why is it that we believe in what we believe in? It's because mass murderers came and beat it into us.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad that you've changed your mind on that. But yeah, at the same time, I feel like we don't look at the timeline of our resistance as a continuum. We look at our lifetime, our struggles, and we don't compare our struggles to the struggles of our contemporaries in days gone by.
Times, yeah.
You know what I mean? In their times. And if you look at from when they first landed, you know what I mean? Or from Bartholomew Dias's time, that's in the 15th century, right? In the 1400s.
1452, I think. Yeah.
1452.
Bartholomew Diaz, he came before the 1652 people.
Oh, Nabo Vasco.
1488. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah. Vasco da Gama is the reason why my dad's name is Natal. Because when he landed in Natal on Christmas Day, he named it Port Natal because Natal means Christmas in Portuguese, and my dad's name is Natal as well. But he wasn't born on Christmas Day.
So your dad is Portuguese colonized. Okay.
Well, yeah, a lot of the Tsonga and Shangan people live within the Mozambique region, which is Portuguese East Africa, which formerly was Portuguese East
That's
Africa.
the link, in your opinion?
With what?
Like, let's say your dad's name and the people up north. If ever any of them potentially have Portuguese names, it might be because of Moz.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's because of Mozambique. It's because it was a Portuguese colony. So even with
You're speaking about the continuum.
yeah, I'm saying
continuum.
even with the way I look at how things were in the times when Mandela was fighting the struggle for the 18 years that he was on Robben Island, and then for the 9 years that he was on other prisons having meetings, right?
And they were negotiating with him and trying to arm wrestle his mind into other things.
He had a choice to make. Again, it was either the constitution or the bullet.
I had to change my stance on Mandela.
Or the
as well.
ballot or the bullet, yeah.
During my radical period, I also used to call him a huge sellout. And then I'd mature into realize it's like, say, if you were given this bullet versus the what would you take? Because there's people that are like, these guys sold out, we should have gone into civil war. What I normally say to them on social media is, hey, big guy, no one is stopping you. Go build a nice army and go do what he couldn't. Aren't you the big boy? Show us how it's done. Go be Ibrahim Traore.
So,
because these guys are sellouts. Go and be a hero.
When you want to have a baby, you don't take your wife to the gynecologist so that he can impregnate her.
How do you do it? Because I wouldn't know.
You impregnate her first.
What?
And then once she's pregnant, you take her to the gynecologist. So calling Mandela a sellout is basically taking your wife to the gynecologist and expecting the gynecologist to impregnate her for you. That's basically what it is. Wena wenzani. Do you understand what I'm saying? Or what is your role in bringing this child to life? This democratic South Africa that you want to be brought to life, what is your role in it? You understand?
Responsibility.
He's 75 years old when he becomes president.
An old man. A very old, tired man who sacrificed a chunk of his life.
You're at school. And Penuel is beating you at school. Instead of you calling your older brother or your dad, which they're bullying you at school.
And your Mkulu is respected because he's got a good profile.
But Come on.
Yeah.
He's not chasing down anyone with a belt. So you understand what I'm saying? So
trying to enjoy time with his grandkids.
A lot of people take the responsibility off their own shoulders.
That's a fact.
And we need to wear that responsibility like a badge of honor. We also need to understand that this freedom is fought for. It's not granted or given. It's fought for. Every single thing about it is fought for. Jay-Z said on Spaces once, right, that he was having a negotiation about repurchasing some of his music rights or whatever with Doug Morris, who was former CEO of Sony, but at the time he was CEO of MCA Records, which then became Universal, right? And Jay-Z, in the conversation, he's speaking to Doug Morris, and, you know, Doug Morris offers him an offer, I think $1 million more than what he was willing to pay at first. So he says to Doug Morris, well, you know, we've had such a great working relationship. I'm not going to fight you over $1 million.
I was trying to get a discount of $1 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Jay-Z was trying to get a discount of $1 million.
Okay.
Doug Morris set his price, and then instead of negotiating down, Jay-Z said, well, we've had such a great working relationship together. Now you must remember, this is a black man, a white man speaking. Zionist, real Hebrew.
This is Doug Morris.
Yeah.
Are you sure he's a Zionist?
All of them
No,
are
I don't know.
All of them are Zionists.
You can't say that.
Yeah, you don't need to be Jewish to be a Zionist.
No, but I'm saying you can't say
I know he's a Zionist. Yes.
specifically Doug
Yeah.
Morris.
You don't work in media without being a Zionist at that level. You don't get to
This is a
CEO.
theory.
No, this is just facts. You can just check all the CEOs of all the big media companies and then see. You know what I mean?
They all support the idea
Yeah, they're
of
either
Zionism.
Israeli sympathizers, or they're Israeli, or they're Jewish, or they're Zionists.
Okay.
Either or.
Sorry, just for people that don't know, because I struggle with this at some point. The difference between a Jewish person, an Israeli person, and a Zionist.
Yeah, and Israeli is a nationality.
Okay, so I could have been born in Israel. Therefore, I'm Israeli.
Yes.
Okay.
And Judaism is a religion.
Okay. So
You can be
I think
Jewish.
Usihle Ngobese might be going through that
Yeah,
transition.
you can be Jewish. No, he can't.
Big Daddy
No, he
Liberty.
can't. He can't.
No, that's okay. But I'm
You
just saying
can't.
as an example.
You can only be Jewish if you come out of a Jewish woman's vagina. That's the only way you can be Jewish.
You have to say vagina though, not even like birthed by a Jewish
My mother's watching
mother.
this.
But I'm just saying,
I'm
like,
just saying. If I can say it in
Anyways.
front of my mother watching,
Okay.
your mom won't mind.
so
so
if you were born Jewish from a Jewish mother,
yeah, from a Jewish mother.
but it's a religion.
Yeah, it's a religion.
And
if
then
you're
Zionist-
a Zionist, you believe that Israel, the nation,
Yes.
right now, should occupy Palestinian land. That's it.
Because
The real Hebrews 3,000 years ago occupied that land.
On
Or
Canaan.
lived on that land. Yeah.
On Canaan.
Yeah.
God said, here's your land.
Here's your land.
As the Israelites, this is your land.
Yeah.
And if you believe in that, you can be South African.
Yeah.
You can be Christian.
Yeah.
You can be a black O. And
Yeah.
you're like, no, but I believe
Yeah.
the Jewish nation, that is their land because God gave it to them. That's a Zionist.
That's a Zionist.
Okay.
So now, Doug Morris, who's an old man at the time, I think he was either in his 60s or early 70s, said, but I would fight you. Now, Jay-Z thought to himself, I could kill this man with my bare hands in this room before anybody heard him scream for help. And he said, I would fight you over that. And that was a business lesson. The first business lesson is that we have just been introduced to industrialization as black people, as Africans. You know, there's no way in the world where black people brought industrialization or brought their culture to the native inhabitants, no matter whether they decimated them or whatever was the process for them to assimilate to our culture as Africans, right? But all over the world, there's places where black people have been brought and have assimilated to their culture.
Yeah.
You understand? There's 63 black countries in the world, 55 countries on the African continent. You know what I mean? So the other 13 black countries are in the Caribbean, in the Americas, right? Like your Guyana, etc., etc. Well, Guyana, I guess, is South America, but yeah, you get the point. The culture difference.
The other 8. So you said 55, 63.
68. Sorry, 68. My bad. 68, yes. Yeah, 55 plus 13. 68. I said 63 instead of 13. Sorry, my bad. So the culture difference.
I think you were mentioning the country is Guyana.
Guyana's in South America, not in the Caribbean. But I was saying the West Indies, you know, the people we play cricket against, Abu Brian Lara, so Abu Shivnarayan Chandapal. so
Jamaica.
You understand? So yeah, Trinidad, Tobago, all of that. St. Kitts and Nevis. So that culture is completely different. So different, in fact, that a guy who used to sell drugs, a street hustler, when he's now exposed to the normal white people's business, the normal industries, the ones that are not illegal, forgets everything that he learned on the street. And you must remember, Jay-Z told us everything he learned on the streets in his music. When he's having the rights battle, you understand? He goes to his connect and he says, how much for a kilo? His connect says, 5,000. He's like, we did so much good business together. I'll give you 5,000. His connect says, you know what? I mean, if you actually fought me for it, I would have given you at 4,000. But since you're taking it at 5,000, I'll give it to you. Just know, if it was the other way around, I would not give you a discount. Yeah. So that's our culture. As black people, and I'm using Jay-Z as an example because he's probably like the most influential black person, right?
Most influential black person.
Yeah.
Most influential black person.
Yeah, he's got similar
influence. You can hear people that are that are supporters.
He's like similar in influence to Kanye. Kanye is more influential, but because of the cancellations. You know what I mean?
Nah, you love Jay-Z.
The moving in a room full of roaches. Yeah, the moving in a room full of roaches, he's got access to other people that Kanye does not have right now because Kanye is blacklisted. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's why Kanye's got to say things like Jay-Z's kid is a retard and he's a deadbeat or whatever. He's denying his other kid. All those types of things Kanye is saying because he can say them because he knows that Jay-Z won't respond back because he has to stay cool in a room full of roaches. So our top black guys are underselling themselves when having negotiations with white people. And that's become part of our culture, is that we always need to bring ourselves down for white people. White people, on the other hand, knowing that they're the ones that have held us down and oppressed us, they will not give us an inch. Doug Morris, knowing that Universal, MCA, all of these companies have been exploiting black artists for years and years and years to the point where sue me, Jew me, you will never kike me, tight. You know what I mean? All those types of things. All those types of things are said by the other top black artists, right? But still, Doug Morris is still shrewd as ever with his business. So now when we're having this negotiation, with his business negotiation, that's just how they are. So they've got a very shrewd culture. And that's why it's a waste of time to negotiate with people with that sort of belief system, because they don't believe in any negotiation. They believe in conflict resolved by war.
Yes, and they've got a portfolio and case studies to back it up that this has worked for us.
If you can't kill me, you can't stop me. That's the thing. Now, the reason why this thing also comes about is also, you need to understand, we spoke about this in that episode where I said the reason why I don't fight or get angry at white people is because I know that their population is shrinking. You know what I mean? So even in South Africa, it's shrunk a lot. You know what I mean?
Elon Musk has tried to highlight the danger of the population decline of white people globally. And I don't know if they take him seriously or not.
They do.
And I don't know if they understand the maths. It's such a basic thing. I discussed this with upper class black people because they're very similar to like white people. They don't get the idea of like having kids. And you try to explain it, but they just don't get it. You have two kids, you replace you and your partner. You have one kid because you want to send them to Saint what.
And you're halving your population.
You're halving your population. It's not rocket science. Japan is struggling. South Korea is struggling. Russia is struggling.
We've spoken about this. So all these developed countries are struggling, for one thing, because we've made children very expensive. We've made...
they've made.
No, well, we are all part of this industrial system, right?
That is also true.
Yeah, so we're participants in it.
Do you know one thing I've said to people which they don't get is, I'm not going to mention the kids, but with all the kids that I have, I've only made one extra child.
What do you mean?
With the kids I have and their mothers, if you do the maths, I've only made one extra child on this planet. All the other kids are just replacements of me and their moms.
Yo. Damn.
Yeah,
You got a long way to go then.
I do.
Genghis Khan.
That's what's up. That's my boy. That's my boy, Kings.
Yeah. So we're gonna have a whole lot of what you call frizzy head, sharp nosed little Penuels running around in
My kids are gonna be
be
competing with the Ingane Mask in future wars is what's going to be happening.
you know. So with us being so compromising, it's also part of our culture.
Ubuntu.
Yeah, this Ubuntu.
Yes.
We see it as a weakness, but it's a
Even
strength.
James was shaking his head.
It's a strength because we don't have that existential threat of, yo, we're going extinct. We've never gone extinct before. You must remember that the Neanderthals are extinct. Yes, their DNA lives on.
Oh, by the way, there are Africans with the percentage of Neanderthal.
Yeah, West Africans, yes.
Oh, West Africans?
Yeah.
Please
in
continue,
particular.
sir.
Yeah, no, West Africans. We're Southern Africans. So yeah, unless you've got any Eurasian blood, it shouldn't affect you. Now, where we find ourselves is that we've got an inferiority complex. It's like our belief system is not our own. Our language is not our own. Our culture is not our own. Our existence is controlled by capital, all of these things. We don't have heritable wealth. You know what I mean? Our parents are not leaving us anything to make us proud of our family name. All of those things are counting against us. And we're forgetting one thing. All this brutality that we talk about that has happened in our past, in our history, we are evidence of a triumph over it. We are alive today. Despite all of that, we're survivors. And if we compare our population groups, our colonizers' offspring have had it too easy. They've had it a lot easier than us. So in a fight for survival, who's most likely to survive? A white kid or a black kid? Given both nothing. The black kid.
Which is why they need to divide black people so that they can kind of compete fairly.
I don't think it's competing fairly. They can't compete fairly.
No, I understand. Just from a numbers perspective. I'm just saying that the whole concept of divide and conquer, because some people don't understand, is if there's 10 of us and there's 100 of you, I need to convince you guys that you're all different tribes or groups or countries or whatever, so that when 10 of us fight you, we're not fighting 100.
Yeah.
We're fighting groups of 10. And even better if we get you guys to fight each other and kill each other. So that we have fewer people to compete with.
Yeah, but you see, now the problem is that they made that calculation, but they couldn't see it through. So now even the Tsongas outnumber the whites. Do you know what I mean? Because whites are not monolithic. There's English or Anglo-Saxon whites, and then there's Dutch Germanic whites. Sure. They're all Germanics, but so those two groups of whites, neither of them is bigger than the Tsonga people. I mean, the one is probably similar to the Swati people or the Ndebele people, all the other smaller minority groups. There's so many more groups. There's more Tswana people than there are white people. There's more Sotho people than there are white people. There's more Zulu people than there are white people.
Oh, come on.
There's more Xhosa people than there are white people.
I want to give you this data so that we have it just captured. According to data out there, white Caucasians are 10% of the global population. Black/African are 14%. 10% versus 14. And then the Asians are 60% of the global population. And of course, it includes the Western Asian, what we'd call about India and those things, and the Eastern, the Chinese, the Japanese, and the like. And then they also add Native American, Indigenous 5%, and then the Pacific Islanders, which is the Polynesians, at about 1%. Sorry, please continue. I just wanted that to be captured.
So for them, they feel it within their genes.
And it's worse when they're not having kids, because that number's going to keep coming
down.
So
what I'm trying to say is that trauma of almost going extinct, or it being a possibility that you can go extinct. You know what I mean? You could have 3 kids in Siberia, and all of a sudden a snowstorm wipes out all your kids. You understand? That's why in Russia or in Siberia, as soon as a baby is born, they throw them out in their little, blanket into the cold so that they could get used to that frigid cold.
And acclimatize.
To acclimatize them. You know what I mean? That's why their noses are bigger as well. So they've got more tissue that can stay warm in the cold to warm up the air, because the reason why your nose is shaped like that is so that as the air goes up your nasal passages, it gets warmed up.
You believe in evolution? Don't give her a long answer. Just yes or no.
I believe in optimization.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have much time. I want to
Yeah.
go through this quickly. I'm sorry to cut you off.
And sexual selection. Like if you choose girls with big asses, chances are your daughters will have big asses.
That's evolution.
Well, and it's sexual selection. Yeah.
I want you to close off. We've got 15 minutes. I sat here with Waras, DJ Waras, Warwick Stock, and with Debza. One of the things that we sort of concluded on, which made me very sad and it hurt me, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, is if white people in South Africa, who are 8% of the population, were to leave this country, you're saying 7, would this country collapse? That's the first question. This is in 15 minutes. The second one is, where are black people getting it wrong in terms of running this country? Economically, politically, socially, because I believe that they don't. And then what's the role of politics in all of this? Do you actually see a role, or do you think it's just the fugazi, smoke and mirrors for the rest of us to feel like something's happening, but they're actually distracting us from what we should be doing? So do you believe that if white people left South Africa, you'd become another Zimbabwe? Why are black people not controlling this country, if you agree with me? And what's the role of politics?
So I'd just like to say that, let me premise this with this. James E. West, not related to Kanye West, I don't think. James E. West, born on
maybe related to his
February 10, 1931 in Farmville, Virginia, overcame racial barriers to become a prominent figure in science and technology. His work at Bell Labs, which is the Bell, Alexander Graham Bell, AT&T, all of that. It was a monopoly in telephony at some point in time. For 40 years and later as a professor at Johns Hopkins University, highlights his dedication to innovation. Johns Hopkins University, you found out about, I think it's in Maryland, around the DC area. It's in Virginia, Maryland, and it's one of the big hospitals that were dealing with, the COVID whole entire thing, and giving us what the latest research is and doing studies. So major contributions. West's most famous for co-inventing the electret microphone in 1962 with Gerhard Sessler, a device that revolutionized sound transmission by being compact, affordable, and highly sensitive. This technology is foundational for devices we use daily, such as telephones and hearing aids. So these Beats by Dre, they've got that microphone in them. Your telephone receiver has got that microphone. Your phone, all these compact microphones, and everything else. And even these big microphones, they've got that microphone in them, or that sort of use of the microphone. And that's why these cables are sufficient, because these cables provide enough of an electric charge to actually power the microphone, because that microphone itself also has got its own electric charge and stores energy within it. That was invented by a black man. So whenever they say, hey, you are on these podcasts saying all these things.
Microphones invented by the white man.
You know what I mean? But that's the electret microphone, So, he's got over 250 foreign patents, over 150 technical papers, right? But this invention, he did it with Gerhard Sessler, who was a white man. So at that point in time, you needed a white man. Do you understand? You needed a white man. The white man is the one that's going to be able to market it. The white man is the one who's going to be able to get the resources to, fund it and ensure that it can be produced and manufactured. And the white man is the one that was given, or one of those that benefited from the 2 billion acres of land that was given to white settlers at the formation of America. This is by by the 1860s, the late 1860s, after the abolition of slavery. Black people do not have that advantage. They don't have the land. They can't build factories and everything else. This guy, he was also responsible for the invention of the light bulb with Thomas Edison, or a part of it. worked in the team, is one of the contributors to the light bulb. He started the Association for Black Laboratory Employees, called ABLE, in 1970 at Bell Labs. Also the Corporate Research Fellowship Program, which was a summer research program mentoring 500 non-white graduates, improving diversity for women, underrepresented minorities. And those are some of the things that he was able to do within his lifetime. We are the first generation of Blacks that doesn't have to fight for civil rights like his generation did. I mean, civil rights was only granted when he was, 33 years old, in 1964. We got our civil rights as Black South Africans in 1996, when the Constitution was adopted. You know what I mean? Again, we also haven't had our civil rights for that long. It's been 29 years? Nah. Up until this point. So as we are progressing, we need to be careful not to compare ourselves, especially not to our colonizers and oppressors. We can't compare ourselves. We need to look at the linear line of our progress and say, where are we at this stage? Right? Look forward and say, where would we want to be in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 100 years, and then work towards that. And do that in isolation. You know what I mean? Without the pressure to assimilate and integrate into other cultures.
What does isolation mean? You're saying you don't believe in integration?
I
There should
don't
be some
believe-
level of segregation?
I believe that we don't need to assimilate into the culture. I mean, we can live amongst each other and not assimilate to one culture. If you go to Westbury, you understand? It's a colored area, or
Yeah.
Bosmont or whatever. There's a mosque on that corner. There's a Catholic church on this corner.
Yeah.
And all the people that go to either of live in the same community.
Sure.
They shop at the same grocery store and everything else. But when it's time to pray, those that pray on the Friday, they go to their mosque on the Friday. Those that go to the church on Saturday, Seventh-day Adventists, they go to the church on the Saturday. Those go to church on Sunday, they go to church on Sunday. In Monday, they all meet at work, in the streets,
Yeah.
and they all live together. But they're building their communities separately. So there's the Christian community within that suburb or area, right? That's living out their lives in full, right? Unimpeded by the Muslim community in the same community. And they're also living out their lives in full.
Yeah.
And they engage and interact with one another, right? But that doesn't mean that they've segregated themselves or secluded themselves. It's just that when they work on their own people with the same belief system, they do that in isolation. And everything else, whether it be working, that's part of industry. It's got nothing to do with our core belief system.
Yeah.
This is just us making an income. And therefore, I believe that it's possible for us to have a core belief system. The challenge is that we don't have a unified church. So, I mean, you could say
Who's
that
us, black people?
as South Africans. So
Black
we don't
South
have a
Africans.
national church. So the Afrikaners, they've got the NG Kerk.
Yes.
The British ones,
Dutch Reformed.
yeah, a Reformed church. Nederland gereformeerde
That's the one.
kerk.
Hey, well done, boy. Nederlandse gereformeerde kerk.
Yeah. So the Anglicans, the English, they've got the Anglican Church. You know what I mean? So that's the Church of England. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter where in the world they are, they've still got a belief system, right, that aligns them with their nationality. There's no South African church. And that's why you can't say, what is a South African? Because we're so different. We're so diverse. And we've isolated ourselves in terms of building our cultures for so long. And in this democratic dispensation, we haven't chosen something that we can say that this is our culture. Because 90% of us are Christians in this country. We could have a South African Christian church. Just like the Anglicans have got their own church, the Ethiopians have got their Ethiopian Orthodox Christian church, the Russians have got their own Russian Orthodox Christian church, the Ukrainians have got their own Ukrainian Orthodox. You understand what I'm saying? We also need our own religious orthodoxy that can give us a certain belief system that aligns us as a nationality. Doesn't matter what tribe we come from. And without having that, we won't have something that binds us to build this nation together.
Isn't the
understand?
Christianity we have sufficient?
As I'm saying, is that it's not tied to our nationality.
But what is our nationality?
Our nationality is what binds us in between these borders.
No, I'm trying to figure out. So you gave those
That's
examples.
the thing, is that we don't actually have anything other than that.
So if we don't have it, you're saying we first need to build it.
We need to build that.
This is not for black people.
This is for South Africans. South Africa is a nation, and South Africa is a black nation. And in 70 years from now, a lifetime from now, there'll be less than half the amount of white people in South Africa than there are right now, presently. You know what I
I'm
mean?
saying this because this follows on from you saying you think we should be building and tracking ourselves in isolation. And by saying that, I assumed you were speaking about black people.
Yeah.
Without this disruption of maybe white Afrikaners, white
Yeah,
Jews, and
as
the
black
rest.
people, we need to build ourselves
Which is
in
why when you
isolation.
speak about the belief system,
And
I'm trying to
same with-
figure out if you speak about a black
As South Africans, we also need to isolate ourselves from the rest of the continent, the rest of the world.
black people or
All South Africans.
including
Yes.
Indian white colored.
Everyone. What I don't believe that white people
When you
should
say
be chased to the
isolation,
sea.
you weren't speaking about black people. You were speaking about South Africans.
No, I was speaking about black people for their own self-determination to better present themselves. Because all of us
When
are
you
coming.
present these two things, it becomes problematic, and that's why I prefer you
Okay.
being specific. Because
So I'm being specific,
other people
but-
are going to be convenient in saying, "But that's not South African," and you're like, "Ah."
Yeah.
Versus being more specific with this is a Zulu Christian church,
Mm-hmm.
Shembe, Sondela Nazareta. This is at least it's more specific. Once you say South African, it almost then muddies the waters, and we're going to assimilate to a
You
white
can have
Christian.
both. You can have all of them at the same time. The Tsongas can have their own church for Vatsonga people. Right? Write their own Bible, reinterpret it. You know what I mean? Infuse their culture into it. It's just the same way King James did. You know what I mean? Just the same way King Tetwayo did when he accepted the Zulu translation of the Bible. You know what I mean? After his exile, when he came back. You know?
That story is very tragic. We'll discuss it on another day.
Without that, they wouldn't have been able to assimilate to the Zulus into the industry that they were creating. And you must remember the Industrial Revolution happened in 1810. So that was right after they'd captured the Cape Colony in 1806. You know what I mean? 4 years after that, the Industrial Revolution started, and they industrialized the rest of the world. They even industrialized the Zulus, you know what I mean? Everybody, even the Voortrekkers who were made part of this British capitalist system, they were captured. So the thing that makes us different, you've got the Shembe Church, right? But the Shembe Church is not saying that it's the church for the Zulus and of the Zulus. It's not claiming that. You know what I mean? It just is de facto. With the Afrikaners, they've got their own church. And you can see it in the way in which this enables them to, number one, create the mythology for a manifest destiny, to erase their failure and defeat in history, because they were colonized as well. They were put in concentration camps by the British before the Holocaust, or the Jews were put in Auschwitz and everything else. The first people that concentration camps were tested on are the Flemish, immigrants, some of the Dutch people, and all of that ended up becoming white Afrikaners that we know of today. That having that church allows them to create an image of themselves that their children can aspire to as they grow older. We don't have that. And that's where we're being defeated. You know what I mean? That's why we feel this inferiority. As a country, we also then need an overarching religious structure that can now unify us by, our nationality. And therefore, we can have a belief system. Therefore, when someone asks you, what is South African food? You can answer them without naming foods from all over the world that just so happened to all make it to a place that has a shore that combines the Indian and Atlantic Ocean, or the Eastern and Western Hemisphere.
So you're giving solutions, and I appreciate that. But the question stands, if white people live here, would this country collapse?
No, it can never. The same way when... let me put it to you like this. Let's say Waras on your show said, fuck all white people. I don't give a fuck about white people. And then white people abandon him.
Yeah.
Is it over for him? No. because the rest of the market, the majority of the market is still black. Now, if black people were to all die tomorrow, some contagion comes, all the black people are dead, white business would collapse. The customers are black. That's just general. You're in a black country. So white people and their skills, those skills are learnable, teachable, transferable. The same way
But why
they
has
could
this
learn.
not happened across the African continent in spaces where white people are a minority or not there? Why
What
have
do you
those
mean?
spaces, why are they not thriving?
They're not thriving because white people stopped the violent colonialism where they occupied us and oppressed us, and then created neo-colonialism,
Sure.
where they send black faces to look like they're ruling over us, but they're the puppet masters.
And they use financial weapons now.
Yeah, they divide and white people.
But this
white
becomes
people,
the question. If white people leave South Africa, won't they do the same? Won't we get sanctioned? So Waras might want to do whatever.
Yeah.
But the black people's money, hyperinflation, Zimbabwe, it's worth nothing. We can't trade globally. We can't import anything. Isn't that what will happen?
So the mere fact that we are so obsessed with this minerals industrial complex country
Yeah.
shows that, we're not proud of our history. Because if we go back to living the way we always lived, where there was no need for money, we still have all the land that was there when, our ancestors were alive and not oppressed. We still have everything. We still have all the resources that they had. You know what I mean? And they were able to lead meaningful lives.
Yes.
That's why we need to isolate ourselves from whatever is happening in the rest of the world. Because the only thing that is stopping us from having apathy towards white people that want to leave or don't care about this country is the fact that we feel we need to compete with the rest of the world. Is that, if white people leave, then we'll fall behind in the league of nations that are competing to be the most developed.
Are you saying
or the
we'd be
most
fine
advanced.
because we'd be living like some of our forefathers?
No, I just think that we'd have less enemies from within.
With our
are
economy, the modern economy we have, would it collapse?
No, the Zimbabwean economy didn't collapse. It might have shrunk, but it's bigger than it was in 2001. Right now, it's bigger than it was in 2008. Right now, so it's still grown.
I wanted to ask you a question I forgot earlier, sorry.
Oh yeah, another thing.
Okay.
I want to add
Let me
another
put a
thing.
note here, sorry.
Vietnam was bombed with more with more force than Hiroshima and Nagasaki in terms of the amount of bombs that were dropped there.
Jeez.
You understand? Vietnam is one of the leading manufacturers in the world right now. So save for us being bombed to oblivion, white people leaving can never be comparable to being an open war zone. Germany survived World War I, survived World War II. It's the biggest economy in Europe right now, or second biggest. Or it and Russia are competing for the biggest economies in Europe. Russia, 60 million of their people died and starved. Or 60 million died in the Soviet Union, starved by, famine, drought, and the changing of the economic system since the Bolshevik Revolution. Russia is still around to this day. It's still the biggest country in the world in terms of landmass to this day. China, you know what I mean? They had Chairman Mao. And through the years of humiliation, they also lost a significant amount of their population. And through the reforms that Deng brought in, they were able to recover and are now the fastest growing global economy and, almost equaling the US's GDP in terms of purchasing power parity.
So these are cool examples. Let me ask my question quickly. I don't know if...
Yeah.
I'm worried about you speaking for long on this
Okay,
question.
no.
I'm
done with that one.
I'm gonna ask it. I don't want you to answer, please. Avedu Tutuzane Zuma here, and one of the questions I asked him is how he's managing to deal with having no bank account ever since what happened back then and how he moves. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is how do you maneuver where your accounts are frozen? How do you make money and You don't have to answer this now or today. You can answer it on another platform. But I wanted to ask, especially if it's a teachable moment for people out there, but if it's something that is IP for you, where you're like, if I tell people this will be shut down, then I'd rather not. But
Okay.
I wanted to say these examples you're giving are really great.
Can I answer that just quickly?
No.
Okay.
The examples you're giving are really great. But when those people had tragedy, which maybe our tragedy was averted, they started moving in a certain direction. Do you feel we're moving? By we, I mean Black people. Do you think we're moving in the right direction? Why are Black people not doing the things of, yes, as much as there was apartheid and colonialism, but you can see the Black kids now, they're studying, they're working, they're building, they're farming. It may be small, but in another 50, 100 years, watch. Are we moving in that direction at all?
Yeah. We're moving a lot in that direction. How many millionaires, Black millionaires, were there in 1990 compared to how many Black millionaires there are today? I think the split of millionaires is 50-50 right now.
But I don't know if you'd measure it like that, because you could argue about how the Black millionaires made their money today. Are they industrialists? Are they building? And
it doesn't matter. At the end of the day,
it doesn't matter.
How they made their money doesn't matter. What matters is that the aggregate income of Black people, the aggregate income of Black people as a whole has grown. Now, them having
but the examples you used, it wasn't based on income. It was based on development. No, the development. When you speak about Germany, when you speak about Vietnam, when you speak about Russia, when you speak about South Korea.
No, I wasn't speaking about development. I was speaking about GDP. So in terms of the size of the economy, how much consumption is happening in that economy. So as I'm saying is that the more Black people that are earning, right? You must remember that we were not part of this industrial system. So even money did not even matter to us. We had no use for money.
You really believe today the fact that we've got more Black millionaires means the Black population is better off?
I don't think it's better off. I think it's more capable of surviving in this industrial world, right?
But it hasn't been proven. The Black millionaires haven't proven that there are certain, even if it's microeconomies in townships, in certain spaces that almost run as autonomously as possible without white influence or maybe Indian influence or foreign influence.
Yeah, they're too lucrative of a market for white people to leave them alone. So they use...
Besides leaving them alone, my argument is these Black people might be millionaires, but they haven't built anything.
Yeah.
So if that
I
white
wouldn't say
money
that they haven't
gets switched
built
off,
anything.
No. So I'm speaking generally.
Yeah.
I apologize. There are many Black people that have done great things.
No, but also in general, as Black people, we've built a lot. You must remember that everything that you see here, right? When the colonizers came here, they needed to be trained on how to survive on this land by Black people. So
are you not philosophizing, bro?
I'm not philosophizing.
I'm hearing you defending Black people, but I mean, then what's the point of everything we're speaking about and complaining about land and the economy if we're fine? If we're fine, then there's no point.
We're not fine. We're not at the destination. We're not at the destination. We're still in the process.
But you really believe we're moving there with all the social welfare and inflation and the fact that our kids are studying garbage?
Yes. I don't believe we're sprinting. I believe that
the average Black child is better off today,
I think,
than in 94.
We're moving faster sideways than we are moving forward. But we are moving forward. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're not running in one spot. We're not stuck in one spot. We're not regressing. We are moving forward. The problem is that the destructive tendencies, right, grow as we become larger in population. So when there's a population of us, right, that is like 10,000, and out of that 10,000, 1,000 are not well, right? The other 9,000 are still faring pretty well, right?
Sure.
Now, when we've got a population of 100,000, right, and 90,000 are doing well, and 10,000 are not doing well. 10,000 is a lot bigger than 1,000. That's it's a much bigger problem, right? Yes, ratio-wise, it's still the same, but the mere fact that the raw numbers themselves, you understand, are so bad, that is a seriously big problem. So we're falling behind in some metrics from where we should be in terms of our development trajectory. But on so many other metrics, we are measuring where we never measured before. You understand? So at some point in time, we only played disc, right? And we're decent at disc. We're decent. No, I'm just saying, for an example, we're decent at disc, but that's all we know. Now we're playing disc. We're decent at disc, but it's not all we know. We play cricket as well. We're terrible at cricket, but we know disky and cricket. Yes, we're terrible at cricket, but we know disky and cricket. We're playing cricket, rugby, tennis. We're terrible at rugby. We're terrible at tennis, but we're playing all of those games. We're not just playing disc.
So you're saying we're being exposed as a people, at the very least, and then we can start measuring later. But okwamanje, we're still just being exposed.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're still waiting for our parents to die. Because ageism is real. And, it's endemic in our African culture as well. It's part of who we are. So we cannot lead our families until the elders are gone.
This is like a story to Parliament that we're still held by people that were at CODESA. And once they're gone, maybe we can have a different conversation.
Yeah, this is the fight I was having with my dad. You know what I mean? It was a very big fight. But eventually, I said to him that if he does not give me any leadership responsibilities when he's no longer around, he's going to be watching his family fall apart from heaven.
Yeah.
And he had to come to the fact, well, I am getting older, you know what I mean? And also his health also starting to get into the phase that it gets into when you're 70 and above. You know what I mean? He was like, okay, I need to start leaving more responsibilities to my sons. And then he started actively training me on certain things. You know what I mean? Like me and my dad talk all the time, every day. And he talks to me about my diary for the day, what I'm planning to do, the things that I told him about a couple weeks ago, people that owe me money, you know what I mean? How I maneuver around bank accounts that are frozen, how the fact that...
Many of us love the relationship you have with your father, man. Yeah. Thank you for always speaking about it.
No, I have to because, there's a lot of fathers that have not been present enough, right? And because we don't speak about the fathers that are present, it seems like all fathers are not present.
100%.
And also, another thing is that a lot of fathers today who did not have present fathers are vocal about their fathers not being present, at the same time vocal about how they won't repeat the same mistake.
Yeah.
So the way in which we judge it is that we listen to this kid who's saying, I'm not going to abandon my kids like my father did. And we're like, all men are trash. Yeah. But this man is just saying that he's not going to repeat what was done to him. You know what I mean? So he's going to change the pattern. And it's cool to be a present father. It's uncool to be a deadbeat.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's the thing, is that the fact that a rape charge, being accused of being a deadbeat, not paying papgeld and all those things, have the same effect on, people's public perception of you, means that we're winning in terms of civilizing ourselves into a better way of living, into better family values. So we're progressing on that front. And there's Bitcoin now. So if your bank accounts get frozen, you know what I mean? People can pay you in Bitcoin. And, with a lot of these Bitcoin apps, you can transfer the money from the Bitcoin to a bank account almost immediately. You know what I mean? Immediate clearance. So
I don't know if you want to say anything. I want to give Nota the last word.
I think there's a guest.
Yeah, we have to shut down. Do you want to say anything? Because he's going to wrap up and I'm going to shut him down as well.
No, I think Nota agrees with what I think, that when people leave, or a certain race leaves, won't have in trouble, because everything you're saying is still based on hope. At least if there was an alternative that we are seeing, that look, man, there are black people who are running mines at like full scale. There are people who have an alternative economy. All the stockfields are fully run by Abu Dhabi and they've got their own banks.
Zamas are running mines.
No, but no.
And it's profitable enough for them to have 1,000 Zamas underground. It's profitable enough for them to pay all the bribes that they need to pay to all the officials that they need to pay. It's profitable enough for them to pay for the refineries to refine it. It's profitable enough for them to transport the gold then to Dubai and sell it on those markets where it becomes untraceable. We're running.
That's an example.
It's a huge example. And let me tell you something. None of those Zamas needed a capital injection to start. They just started with what they had and they developed, and then it became an opportunity for those that have capital to now start investing in helping them scale up their operations. And us losing the white people doesn't mean that Indian people are dead, doesn't mean that Asian people are dead, doesn't mean that Arabs are dead.
Or they want to run the economy after
what I'm just saying is that before we collapse completely, There's so many other things
Races.
that we still
There are
need
so
to
many
lose.
other races
that can come in
can help us
and
out.
help us support. And also,
Wait, Nota, before you close, Debza, please finish.
Yeah.
We're out of time.
Oh no, I was just saying that it's unfortunate that we don't have examples of how that we can. I mean, we can go into a deep chat about the Zamazamas, you know. But I'm just saying that I don't think we've fully proven that we can run on our own as Abu Dhabi outside of this wide economy that is. I mean, a country is run by businesses. You know, it's not run by these politicians. You know, the market and the economics decide what policies they must put in. You know, so what I'm saying is I don't see us surviving to the extent that we think we will survive. I think we'll collapse as
so
Abu Dhabi.
is Ethiopia
Thank you,
not surviving?
Nota, I'd like you to close off this.
Yeah, Ethiopia is a black country. You know what I mean? They resisted
The women, they are
colonization.
stunning, man. Jeez.
Thank you. I'm sure you've seen one of mine. Must have caught your eye.
you know, there's a lady I've had here, and I joked with her because her grandfather is Italian, and I'm like, one of the things one of the resources we don't speak about that made certain people move here and never leave is our women.
No,
that's the
the
one
biggest
resource.
thing. No, that's the biggest thing.
That's the one resource that will make people stay, but they'll never say.
The thing is this, 2010 did two things. It exposed the world to our women, and then it also exposed our women to the world. So before 2010, you could date a girl that has never smashed a Mexican, that has never been given $10,000 by some guy from Honduras. You understand what I'm saying? It was possible. Now, every chick has got a DECRA report, an AFCON report, a UEFA report. You understand? I'm just saying. She can tell you.
Hey, at Switzerland with the World Economic Forum.
You understand? The Davos report. Davos, the World Economic Forum report. You know.
Davos is coming through now in November, ne?
Yeah. You know what I mean? Klaus Schwab doesn't mind the Schwab.
Hey!
So, you know, when he gets the big juicy booties down here in Africa, that's all the more better for him. But like I'm saying is that, look, we're not the ones that are fighting off extinction. And the people that are fighting off extinction are the ones that are telling us that we don't need them. So what could be the motivation? Could the motivation be that they want us to see us progressing and they want us to work together? Or could their motivation be to ensure that we don't help them get driven to extinction because we see that they're vulnerable? They're bluffing right now. If you ask me, 15% of the population is Afrikaans speaking in 1996. Only 10% is Afrikaans speaking now. So already 34% of their speakers have been lost in the space of 29 years. That's not even a lifetime. That's half a lifetime. Let's take that to life expectancy, 58 years. Oh, you understand what I'm saying? 29 plus 29, that's 58 years. How many of them will still be speaking Afrikaans? Will it be 5%? You understand? Will it be 2%, 1%? You don't know. Now with an offer to give Afrikaners and white farmers a chance for refugee status in the States, if you're a poor white, you're stupid if you don't take that offer. You're stupid. Why? Because minimum wage in South Africa is 27 Rand, right? An hour. Sure. Either way, minimum wage in America is $13 an hour, right? Which is 10 times.
Yeah, but cost of living and those things.
Cost of living is not 10 times more. At most, it's 4 to 6 times.
In America, people have to work.
I just told you how much I got my bacon and whatever. I'm just telling you. My Coca-Cola at that time was $1. $1 is what? 18 Rand. How much is a can of Coca-Cola in South Africa? It's comparable. Do you understand what I'm saying? My coffee was $2. How much is $2? It's 40 Rand. You know, my double espresso costs me 28 Rand in South Africa. It's comparable. It's not that bad. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No.
Okay,
but
an iPhone, an iPhone is $1,200.
I hear your point. I disagree with you.
How much is that? That's like what? 25,000 Rand? This iPhone is 40,000 Rand in South Africa.
I agree that a poor white Afrikaner, given the choice, should consider, if they're not really tied to the fatherland, that look, here's a big economy.
What fatherland?
A lot of
That's a myth.
Well,
it doesn't exist.
That's what they call it.
I understand, but it's
that's
a
what they
myth.
call it. I'm
It's a
speaking
myth.
for them. I'm saying for the ones who aren't passionately patriotic to South Africa.
Let's just talk about the poor ones.
It is. That's what I'm speaking about.
The ones that don't own farms.
You're not listening to me.
That don't
You're not
own
listening to me.
big
You're not listening to me.
businesses,
You're not listening to me.
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you.
Okay, shut.
I'm saying
no, that's all I wanted to hear.
It's a really great opportunity for them. So I agree with you in that regard.
Yeah, so Abahambi.
Sure.
Yeah, bazophila ngama coupon. They'll be fine. The poor ones. They should
the
be
poor
fine.
whites-
Let's shut it down.
Now,
Let's shut it down.
so for the rich
no,
whites,
done. Finish it.
for the rich whites, you guys have very few children, so your natural extinction is going to happen either way. You know what I mean? So that's what's going to happen. Unfortunately, the mere fact that there's so many white people fighting to keep America majority white, right, doesn't mean that they're going to succeed, because nature is taking its course.
When are you
Now-
making babies? You keep speaking about
Yeah.
population. When
Yeah,
are you
not
making
now
babies?
it's time.
Uyakhuluma nje nawe kodwa nawe
You see-
uzoba
you
extinct
see, the
maduze.
reason why I go so easy on you, I go so easy on you for having lots of baby mamas is because I've got 0 baby mamas.
Hey, shut this
So
thing down,
for
man.
everyone that I'm missing, you are covering for me. So as long as Abo Penuel are covering for me, I never want to have to answer a question about when I'm making babies, because my niggas have got me.
Nhlamulo, Nota Baloyi.
My
Thank you
niggas
so
got me.
much. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll sit again soon.
Thank you, man.
Easy, Holmes.
P break. Hola.